Hi all, I'm Waldemar. Welcome to chessadelic.com. We're going to have a look at the game between Topalov and Ivanchuk that was played in the second round of the MTEL Masters Sofia 2008. After 28 moves we have reached this position. We can see that black is probably slightly better due to the more active position of his pieces. Also, the black rook on a5 is attacking the bishop on b5, which means that c takes d5 is not possible for white. And furthermore, the pawn on b3 is weak. So, in this situation, it was Topalov to move, and he chose for a very aggressive defense. He played f5. And in doing so, he wants to break up the entire black position over the white squares. He wants to take on e6 and in this way try to open the f-file and maybe bring his bishop to e8 so he can attack the f7 square. And if the bishop has gone from the b5 square, then also c takes d5 becomes possible, and then maybe white can even recapture on d5 again with his d rook. So it makes sense to play this move. Ivanchuk played e takes f5. Now his pawn chain is broken up, and Topalov pursues his very active defense by playing the interesting g2, g4 to try and pry open the f-file even more. Okay, now let's see what could have followed if Ivanchuk would have played f takes g4. Then, all of a sudden, white would play bishop d7 and threaten e7, e5, e6, after which he would be winning, because after e5, e6 it is not possible to prevent this e-pawn from promoting, because if you take f takes e6, then of course rook f1, f8 will mate after the bishop takes on e6 in between with check. Okay. So, since this is a good opportunity for white, after g4, Ivanchuk did not take on g4, but played rook takes b3. So now he's a pawn up, but that's not such a very important factor in this position, since there are all kinds of dynamics going on. Now Topalov took back on f5, and now he has a nice pawn duo there. So both players were approaching time trouble, especially Ivanchuk was in a severe time trouble at this stage, and I think he made an inaccuracy here. The best move for him would have been to play rook b2, which would have maintained a serious advantage. The idea of rook b2 is to also play the other rook from a5 to the second rank and exert serious pressure over this second rank. However, after g takes f5, Ivanchuk played rook e3 and places his rook behind the e-pawn. This move makes sense, but now Topalov has the opportunity to attack the black knight with rook b1. Now, this knight has to move, and it moved to d3. And here it was Topalov's turn to make a mistake. He could have played the very strong rook a1, which seems to be more or less winning. Let's see why this would have been such a strong move. First of all, it attacks the rook on a5, and that rook is a bit lonely out there. It has no coordination with the other rook, which is on e3. So there would have to follow rook takes a1, but now again white is threatening mate on the back rank. Let's suppose that black would play h6 to prevent it against that mating threat. Then it would be possible for white to play c takes d5, and all of a sudden white has a very strong passed d-pawn, and it is not possible for black to defend against this. One option would be to try and take the pawn on e5, but then after the simple d5, d6, there's just no defense against this d-pawn queening. Just notice how white's pieces are supporting this d-pawn and are taking away very important defensive squares from black's pieces, such as d7 and d3. So after c takes d5, black could also try knight f2 check, but then after king g2 again d5, d6 is threatened, and black has no better move than to take one of these brutal pawns. But then after rook a8 check, king h7, d6, rook takes bishop and d7, it becomes clear that the pawn is going to queen and that white maintains serious winning chances, beating the exchange up. Okay, so Topalov missed this opportunity after knight d3 and he played e6. But now Ivanchuk secures his own d-pawn and plays d4. Now it is no longer possible for white to take this pawn, and now black's d-pawn is turning into a very strong free pawn. Bishop e8 followed, which threatens the f-pawn, and probably this was the last moment where Ivanchuk Topalov missed a chance for an equal game. He could have tried the funny bishop c6 attacking the b7 pawn, and of course the bishop cannot be taken because then rook b8 would be mate. Okay, let's return to the game. Bishop e8. Now Ivanchuk played knight c5. King f8 would probably have been more accurate, but still black has an advantage here. And now followed bishop f7 check. And it was at this stage that I suppose Ivanchuk had something like 5 seconds left for his 5 final moves before the time control. So king f8, that's an easy move for him. Now Topalov played f6. There was an exchange on f6, and now king e7. Rook h6 and d3. Now this pawn is coming. And the difference between the black and the white free pawn is quite apparent. The black free pawn cannot be blockaded, but the white free pawn is safely blockaded by black's king. And this is quite a nice example of a situation where one of the two kings is actually participating in the endgame. White's king is in the corner, not doing much, but black's king, on the other hand, is fulfilling a very important defensive role. So Topalov took on h7, d3, d2 came, and now notice that all black's pieces are on black squares, so white does not have a dangerous discovered check with his bishop. So this is probably where Topalov made his final mistake, which was also his 40th move. Most tenacious would have been to play king g2, and then after rook e1 he could try bishop h5 check and still control the d1 square, which is the promoting square for black's pawn. However, after d2 he played his rook to g1, bottling up his king in the corner, and now it is simply lost. Ivanchuk played his 40th move, rook e1, now threatening to promote, of course. Bishop h5 still saves the day a little bit because it controls the d1 square. Now Ivanchuk could take on e6, and now he simply threatens to bring his knight closer into the action via e4 and f2 check, which would attack white's king but also overprotect the promotion square. You could think, okay, well then let's just move the king, but then rook a1 would follow, and black would have sufficient power on the first rank for a decisive advantage here. He's simply threatening to take the rook on g1 or to promote. So after king e6, Topalov tried rook h goes to g7, but then also knight e4 followed, and after this final check, king e5, Topalov resigned. He can try a number of moves, but there are no more serious checks, and black's next move will simply be rook a5, a1, setting up decisive threats on the first rank. Okay, this ends this first video of the amazing Mr. Ivanchuk. Please come back for the win that he played in the third round. Thank you.